Good morning, everyone. Hello, I'm Tabitha with Tabs on Tap. We're off to a very unusual morning this morning, but happy Monday as Mondays go. We have Colonel Joe Adams with the Washington Guard with us here today. And it's a little unusual. Usually we bring in Colonel Adams a few minutes later, but everything's a little off this morning. As you can see, my flag is missing. I was using my camera and my setup for something different this weekend. And I got started, was getting ready to start the show and I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't hook up my camera. So, of course, everything's delayed. I didn't get in. I had to work all weekend, very long shifts. I didn't get in till 3:30 in the morning last night. I don't know about you guys, Colonel Adams, I'm sure you can relate, where you've been
Yeah,
so sick, where you actually feel you're so tired that you feel sick.
uh,
So I was coming on the show this morning. I seriously thought I'm going to throw up in the middle of the show. Get through it. Colonel Joe Adams, how are you doing this morning?
better than better than you. We were just laughing. I said, and I told Dan, I said, if I came in at 3:30 and tried to do your show, you'd have to check me for a pulse. There's no way I could
Uh,
do it.
Well, that's
That's because
kind of how I'm feeling right now. And good morning,
you could.
Mary. Yes, Colonel Adams,
Yeah,
that's exactly how I'm feeling. When I woke up this morning, I thought I don't know if I can do it or not. I'm not sure, but I'm going to do my best because it's going to be a very busy week for me. As a matter of fact, I just to let everyone know, I'm not going to be here Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday because I'm going to be working out of town. Very, very busy, unfortunately. So, Colonel Adams, let's just jump to things. What's on your mind today? And then I've got a whole list of things to go over. Epstein files, various war fronts in different areas. So we're going to kind of jump through things. But first, before I get into any of those topics, I want to know what you want to talk about first.
uh, I have so many things. There's been so many things going on with this. I guess socialism now, referring to that is common. But going back to the Declaration of Independence, that was actually a warning in a guide for future generations, and it's telling us it's actually a warning to the future that what it's going to take to keep it, and what's this country going to become if in fact this kind of thing happens, and it's happening. People are saying, well, what all this people are going all this socialism. Good. That why socialism has always been the elephant in the room and nobody talks about it, right? No, now that we know it's out there, now we can do something about it. So that guy being elected in New York, good, good. Up in what was it, Washington State, socialist, good. That's fine. They surfaced. You cannot destroy the enemy unless you can identify and find them. We have identified them and we have found them.
Correct. Absolutely correct. And look at what Mom Donnie in New York City is doing. He said, as a matter of fact, speaking of the Epstein files, Mom Donnie released a statement over the weekend that he is going to take a look at the Epstein files because, of course, they're in New York City. He knows that's where a lot of the files were held, and he said he's gonna come after Trump to the full extent of the law in New York City. And then you know how Trump responds? He says, "Hey, House Democrats, let's release the Epstein files. I have nothing to hide. Let's release those files." And Colonel Adams, wouldn't be surprised if Trump doesn't have something up his sleeve. We already know he's already stated, "Hey, everybody wants to focus on me. How about we focus on Bill Clinton, Larry Summer, Reid Hoffman, JP Morgan Chase? Let's do an investigation into these folks."
Yeah, frankly, I'm getting tired about the Epstein files. We got bigger problems. I think it's a diversion. The Democrats using diversion. Trump could care less. He's trying to. I mean, how many wars? What's he stopped? 8 wars now. He's got bigger fish to fry than Epstein files. That's nothing more diversion, and that's like melodramatic. It's like a soap opera. Who cares? I don't. I care about this country and the future of this country. I don't care
Yeah,
about
but at the same time, Colonel Adams, I'm going to be the advocate here because I know this is what listeners are going to say is that we have to care about the Epstein files. Why? Because many women were victims. We had pedophilia, running rampant. We had a system in which we had a guy like Epstein and Maxwell, running around our country, taking advantage of the most vulnerable females. What they would do is they would go to parents and they would pay the parents to allow these daughters to come to these camps. And they would tell the parents, hey, we'll give you money, we'll give your daughter money, we'll give her some tuition money, scholarship, all these different promises, when really all they wanted to do was rape and molest their daughters and traffic them. Human trafficking is a big issue in this country. And so for me, that's why the Epstein files are important. It's the trafficking aspect, the victim aspect. But like Donald Trump says, when he talks about it being a hoax, which by the way drives liberals insane, but by hoax, he's not talking about the whole case as a hoax. He's talking about these files, because we know the CIA has been all over these emails. You don't know what to trust, what not to trust. And of course, they're painting a big picture that Trump is really the bad guy, when in fact he didn't do anything wrong at all, other than try to help prosecute Epstein.
Well, I mean, of course, I mean, right now, one of the biggest tragedies South America is the country of Peru. I've got a guy down there that's actually sheltering women. So they're going into rural areas like Peru and convincing these poor farmers that if you let us take your daughter, she'll have this job and she'll send money back. And they're turning their young girls over to them because they're so naive and out of the loop.
Correct.
I mean, this is nothing new. So
Correct.
prosecute them, burn them.
That's right.
I mean, euthanize them. I don't care, but we're spending a lot of time. I mean, law enforcement should be taking care of this. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's Epstein file is only one situation. We've got
One of
dozens
many.
and dozens. Oh, it's like an epidemic, but it's all been there, but no one's ever talked about it because they got away with it.
Correct.
Epstein made the news because of people involved. That's
correct.
why it's newsworthy. But there's a 1,000 Epsteins out there, but they don't get the news because they're not Epstein and the people involved. That's all.
And because you know why? Because they can't blame it all on Donald Trump, is a big part of it. And I'll be glad when these files are released. And Colonel Adams, I know there is no list. I mean, there's no list. There's, Epstein didn't write down, all the names of his people, but there's files, there's videos. But, at this point, those files have been so tampered with, I don't think we'll ever be able to trust anything that's in them either way. But I'm like you in the aspect where I want them to release the files, then I want to be done with it. I want those people to pay a price, be held accountable if that's possible at this point, and then let's move on.
I think everybody does.
Yeah.
Everybody does. But I mean, we're on the verge of World War III in Europe, and we're still talking about Epstein all the time. Just burn them. Epstein's dead. Burn her, and let's get on with it and prosecute the people involved. Simple as that. I'm done. That's it. So.
Yep, I am with you 100%. Now, let's backtrack a little bit. You talked about being on the verge of war with Europe. Can you elaborate a little bit? Because we know right now we have special operations forces right now on the ground in Nigeria. I don't think anyone's talking about it. I shared a video of the troops on the plane on their way to Nigeria. And do you know Facebook wouldn't distribute it at all? Not one single, I can look at my insights. It didn't even get one single view because they took it out of the algorithm. We have a carrier group that has moved into the Caribbean. Of course, we got this uprisings in Mexico. We're on the verge of war all the time with, Russia over this ridiculous, speaking of hoaxes over Ukraine. So where do you see us going?
Well, Europe is preparing for World War III, period. We're not. Unless something actually ends up in your backyard, most American mentality is it doesn't affect me. That's why the mentality of people in Texas allowed the largest collection and organization of Islam to build a city down there, because they're just what doesn't bother them. It's an attitude. But Islam I could go on all day about, but Britain and France and Germany have now figured out finally that mass immigration, and especially from Islam, does not work. And now they've got to do something about it or lose their country. But at the same time, What did they do? They did, and when it goes to, they're talking about civil war in France and in England right now, civil war, and all the Syrian refugees that came out of there during the wars in Syria, they're all asking them to go back. Well, they don't want to go back because their job is not to go back. Their job is to spread the word of Islam. That's
Correct.
the problem. The one thing that Donald Trump already knows is trying to figure out how to do it. Until we identify Islam as not a religion, but as a violent ideology of conquerism, that's the thing that's going to change. All of a sudden, the hope they can't hide behind our Constitution with religion until we identify that. Now, if he decides to do that, or is he going to say an executive order that radical Islam are a terrorist? I think that's how it'll start it. But what's going to happen? Here come the Democrats. Oh, no. So whatever, people have to understand that everything that Donald Trump does, all they try and do is block everything. And they know these things are wrong, but they do it anyway.
Correct. Absolutely correct. And I see Carl. Good morning, Carl, jumping in, usually on YouTube, now joining us on Facebook. Kevin, Mexico's residents are revolting now. Yeah, there's a lot of uprisings going on in Mexico. And Colonel Adams, I know already 100% you're going to agree. I saw the news headlines this morning that, President Sheinbaum is being accused of supporting the cartels, being elected by the cartels. I'm like, did anyone not think that was the case? I mean, hasn't that always been the case with any president in Mexico?
Yeah, right.
I mean, you can't become president of Mexico unless the cartels support you. Look what happens to the police officers and the mayors and other officials in Mexico. If you don't support the cartels, then you are assassinated.
Right. Well, especially the journalists. I mean, there's been over 100 journalists assassinated by the cartels. Come on, man. Mexico has been in bed with them for a long time. They consider it collateral when they go out and hit the cartel groups or engage with them. That's collateral damage. It's just a front. So,
now what about the Islam ideology in Mexico? Because Colonel Adams, we talk about what's happening here in the United States, and that ideology, very dangerous ideology, is spreading rapidly within our country. We're just a step behind Europe. And we already know in Mexico, we have groups like ISIS training the cartels. They've been doing that for quite some time. But I can't say I've seen a lot of Islamic activity in Mexico. Is that because the cartels won't allow it?
That's because exactly, and that until the cartel needs the Islamic regime, then no, they've got control. And because the cartel operates with no rules, if Islam gave them a problem down there, the cartel would just walk in and kill all of them. So unless they can provide something to the cartel. Now, we also know the cartels have been working with the Hezbollah for years because the Hezbollah's number one resource, other than Iran, to get money is narcotics. So they're actually doing business with them. And who do you think taught the cartel how to dig all those tunnels? It was because they've been digging them over there for years, over in the Mideast. So they're connected in a way only to profit the cartel and to profit Hezbollah. Narcotics. And there's another thing. So the Democrat Party hates the fact that Trump's blowing up all these narcotics headed for the United States, which we're up to 21 now. What a guy!
Why do they hate it so much? That's what I don't understand.
Because Trump's for it. Because Trump's doing it. He's getting attention. Anything, I don't care what happens, they always oppose him.
Yeah,
period.
That's true. You're absolutely. He could come outside and say, "Yeah, the sky's blue. Oh, we got to get rid of that blue sky. Let's turn it green."
No, it's Aurora Borealis. No, okay, that's just the way it is. And that's the Democrats now openly talk about power. When did you ever hear a politician talk about the reason I'm going to take this is for power? The reason we're doing this is for power. Power. Now that's become acceptable. What about they used to say, I thought about the debate between Douglas and Lincoln back in the day when Lincoln was running for office. No one spoke about power. It was about the people. Now it's about power and people accept it.
Right.
Terrible. And,
Yeah.
and this deportation, they're against all this deportation stuff. Hey, that was always the Democrats' plan B. Going listen to some of the speaking engagements that Clinton talked about.
Oh yeah.
But now that it's Donald Trump's idea and he proved it and did it and is doing it, now it's a bad idea.
I have played countless videos of Hillary Clinton talking about deportations and
Yep.
closing the border. Bill Clinton, close the border, deport, people, non-citizens. Obama at, during Trump's first term, he was in a close run with Obama. Obama at the time of Obama's presidency had deported more, non-Americans than any other president. But just like you said, but when it's Donald Trump, it's, we can't allow this to happen. And remember back when they were accusing Donald Trump of putting kids in cages, but that was actually something that took place during the Clinton administration and the Obama administration, but nobody brought it up until Donald Trump was in office.
Where are you supposed to? How are you supposed to build a detention center? Build concrete walls? No, they have to have them screened off and separated. Like, come on, that's the Democrats' spin to it. They built the damn things. And as far as that Obama goes, as far as deportation, he's the one who set the plan to open the borders. So he didn't mind deporting them because he knows it's going to bring them back when Hillary was elected. Oops, that was collateral damage, temporary collateral damage. They're going to bring them back anyway. So Hillary didn't get elected. Biden steals the election, and he lets them in. So all the ones that Obama deported came back across. And the crossing was expedited by the patrol.
Oh, no question about it. They were the border patrol. They were given orders. Yeah,
I was there and watched them do it. And I said, "What? They said our orders are to expedite as many as fast as possible." And that comes from the border. And that came from the border patrol.
I remember. Yeah, I remember when it was happening. Border patrol. They were setting up tables along the border, and anyone who crossed into our country illegally, they didn't even have to run. All they had to do was walk up to the table, and they were processed and released. They were given a form. Oh, show up in court. See you later. Then they were giving them bus tickets and train tickets and airplane tickets and shuttling them all over the country. The only people who ran and hid, of course, were the terrorists that came into our country. Colonel Emzo, I wanted to ask you something that is a very serious question. It's something that's on my mind a lot, is that we know that the liberals and conservatives have been at odds for a while. But, when I look back, let's say during the Clinton years or the both George Bush's years, really even Obama, we were starting to become divided under Obama. Prior to that, I can't say I really felt all that much divided. There were policies here and there that the two groups didn't agree on, but it wasn't anything crazy like what we have now. And during Donald Trump's last term, I preached a lot about peace. Let's come together. Let's unite. As long as we unite, then we can fight the true enemy, which is truly not each other. But the rift is growing. And I'm really wondering if you think there's any chance at all of peace or healing that rift between liberals and conservatives.
No. Power. The Democrats want the power. They want the power back. So no. But all of these problems we're facing today, all of them can be traced back to Obama.
Yes.
He shot the starting gun off, Obama, and people didn't see it. And now this is what we're living with. And, I said that if Trump only spent his entire administration 12 hours a day, he cannot solve the people that came into this country and have them all deported. The numbers are too unbelievable. So this has to continue. And it's going to take, it'll take 3 terms of presidential office to get everybody out that we want to get out. And they're crying, oh, you're not deporting they're deporting the honest worker picking cotton or whatever. Well, he's here illegally. So I was talking to a buddy of mine on Border Patrol the other day, and he said, we picked up a girl that had crossed over into the border. She didn't make it very far, and she had been deported 34 times. That holds the record, deported 34 times. And she's an illegal. And she's been living here for the last 15 years, but was because if she was deported that many times and she's working, she's running back and forth carrying narcotics or whatever. So the Border Patrol says, I have no sympathy for somebody who's been here 15 years, 20 years, and never took the time to be legal. And they could
Correct.
have. They have legal attorneys that are for free. All they have to do and go through the steps. They didn't do that. So do I have a sympathy for a woman who's got 5 kids and has been living here 15 years and didn't do anything about it? No, not at all.
Right.
Get out.
Well,
Get out.
and I don't know if you read the same report, and I can't, vouch for the accuracy of this report, but I did read a report just this weekend, and it said that as of, today, let's say, which was probably Friday, that 92% of all current deportations, people that ICE has rounded up, has deported, in the process of deported, have committed a very serious crime. Domestic battery, pedophilia, something along those lines, sexual assault, homicide, terrorism at 92%. I mean, I think that speaks volumes.
That's insane. And and the Democrats let them in. Period. All this. So the Democrats don't want these guys deported. Even the criminals, they want to keep them here. Why would they do that? Because Trump wants them out. Period. There is no more conversation than that. They're not doing it for evil. They just hate Donald Trump. Because
They
Donald
do hate Donald Trump.
Donald Trump is the one person who stands in the way of their power.
But
So
now, what about JD Vance? JD Vance is set to run in 2028. Provided he makes it that far. I know he's under a lot of threat. Will liberals be happy with JD Vance? I'm going to say no. I feel like the division is so great right now that there is no one person who could become president that both sides will be happy with. It's going to just lead to more division.
absolutely, it's going to continue. So, like I say, there's people still planning. They want Donald Trump dead. Now, if they do assassinate Donald Trump, I hope it's a Muslim, because the one thing that's going to happen, we're on the verge of some catastrophic events on this planet. France will go to civil war with the illegals coming into their country, or the people they let in. Germany's going to go to civil war with them. Britain has to go to civil war with them and get them out of the country. And so the fight's getting ready. Unfortunately, those countries, the first thing they did was take away all the citizenry's weapons. You can get a permit to own a gun in Paris, and
it was London, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was London. You can get but it's usually a shotgun, a hunting weapon, something like that. So, and they issue permits over there in England by cities. So I looked up the stats of how many permits, and you have to go jump through hoops to get one.
Oh yes, most certainly.
Now, this is insane. So a couple of those cities had over 1,000 permits granted in 2024, but compared to the population, that's nothing. There were only 3 permits in London issued to have a gun, shotguns. 3. Now,
I know that's wild, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, in this, it's crazy. They had that many permits issued legally to buy a gun through background checks stuff in Franklin County between the hours of 6:30 this morning and 6:45.
Right, exactly.
So put that in perspective. So y'all know that my neighbors hate me because my boss shoots every day. Oh, in fact, she just won her first place event in the ladies class a week ago Saturday. So, and she's ranked 7th in a category in the state. So she's doing well. She shoots every day. So the neighbors hate me. So the classic line was that when I was working with the SWAT team out here a few weeks ago, and one of the officers said, "Oh yeah, we've been to your house. We know about the complaints from the Karens up on the hill." And the deputy sheriff says, "You know something? You just tell them if you don't like shooting or guns or shooting noises, don't move to Franklin County. This is gun country. So I'm right at home out here."
And I saw the video you shared, by the way, of your production assistant over there, and it was a fantastic video.
Well, she'd already won the event, so that was the guy that had a machine gun, an Uzi submachine guns, which I know something about. And so if you want to fire the machine gun, just stay afterwards and did. So Deanna got to shoot her Uzi machine gun.
And congratulations to Deanna. That is a fantastic accomplishment.
I think I was the first person in St. Louis to own an Uzi, very first.
Probably so.
And nobody knew that the Secret Service carried Uzis until that guy tried to kill Reagan. And when they pulled out the Uzis, I didn't even know they carried Uzis. But all because of that, then the Uzi got real popular.
Oh yeah.
I carried when I was in Central America. I carried one for 2 years.
Yeah, my new motto is to not talk about weapons. I think that people have to start being very careful. Now you are on a whole different level. You've got nothing to worry about, but I think people need to start being very careful what they reveal. When it comes to weapons, the photos they post. Because there will come a time, things are becoming more extreme all the time, far more extreme. And we are probably going to we were very close to reaching this point already with Kamala Harris. We're going to reach a point where the government is going to come and take your guns. I know people will say, well, that's not going to happen. The government will never do that. Who would have ever thought a socialist would be elected the mayor of New York City, or that we would be in the place we're at now? I would be very careful to other folks out there, what you reveal you may have at home.
Well, that's good advice, because when I talk to people about coming into the Washington Guard, they'll say, "No, I'm okay with my family. I've got this cache of weapons. I've got this gun, this gun, this gun." And I said, "Why would you say that?
Yeah.
Why would you tell me that?
Don't tell anyone."
Maybe I'm not who I say I am. Maybe I'm an FBI. Now, this is during Biden. So you're right to a point. But they're never going to take my guns. And the reason, because I won't know if they take my guns, because I'll already be dead.
Right.
So they would have to kill me to take my weapons.
That's why I said you're in another category.
I know, and everybody knows me anyway, so it's no secret that I'm ready and been ready for 20 years.
Yeah, I see scary things. I know people say, "Oh, you're all doomsday," and I'm not trying to be doomsday. But Colonel Adams, here's the thing. I've been thinking a lot about this lately, just because I'm very concerned with where we're heading. The direction we're all heading in, and I don't hate anyone. I know a lot of very liberal people. I know a lot of people who hate Donald Trump. They just flat out despise him. And quite honestly, I respect their decision. If somebody doesn't want to follow Donald Trump, that is completely their prerogative. In my personal life, I'm not out talking to politics with people at work or socially or anything else. I talk about it on this show, and that's about it. But the fact is I don't talk about politics typically to those people, because I know how they're going to react, and it won't be good. And on the other hand, I would just be like, "Hey, I respect your decision." Other people don't feel that way. They absolutely would not respect my decision to support Donald Trump.
I've only been in one altercation, physical altercation here in Franklin County since we moved out here. And the person I got into it with physically had a Biden-Harris bumper sticker on his car. Yeah, and that wasn't the issue. It was just something else. But when I found out what car he was driving when he got to where he was, of course, here's the Biden bumper stickers. Now I understand why he thought he could verbally assault me or physically, and he found out he suffered from improper target selection. It didn't work out real well for him.
It happened to me too. I mean, I think you know the story. I was assaulted at a friend's bar, this was several years ago, back during Trump's first term. I wasn't even talking about politics. I think somebody kind of set me up. A girl came over and started talking to me about politics. When I'm out, I don't talk about politics unless somebody asks me a question. And this girl started asking me all these questions. The next thing I know, this guy, he was a young gay man who was a bartender down the road from where I was. He came up behind me. I thought he was leaving because I'm very situationally aware. I saw the guy moving behind me, but there was a door right next to me. And I thought he was going out that door. And instead he came up behind me and punched me in the back of my head. Now, I will tell you that before I even, I think, registered that this guy punched me, my fist was in the middle of his face. And then he took off out the door. I took off out the door behind him. And I almost got him before he got in his car. God knows what I would have done to this man, had I been able to get to him in time. But that's the violence that we're dealing with. It's just, I couldn't even imagine punching someone physically or even verbally assaulting someone because of their political beliefs. I would never do that. I respect every American for their beliefs. If you want to go down that road and vote for Harris or Biden, or Obama, that's on you. I'm taking care of my own. But, we as humans, and I don't know how you feel about this, Colonel, I feel like as humans are just not peaceful natured. Because guess what? And I don't want to do this. I'm just going to throw that out there before I say what I'm going to say. I'm not advocating for this. But let's just say that one of these political parties, whether it's conservatives or liberals, let's say we came to a civil war. One party exterminated the other. So then you're left with just one party. It's either we're left with all liberals or let's say we're left with all conservatives. Well, guess what? That one remaining group, they would find something to fight about and then they would divide and the whole process would start all over again.
That's human nature. That's human.
It's why it's all so senseless to me.
Well, that's just human nature. You're right. If they ought to start deporting Democrats, as far as I'm concerned, but you're right. The Republic would break it. That's just human. Human beings are very predatory. It's always been that way. They're warlike. When I was in Burma, they all fought amongst each other because for centuries they were geographically they could never communicate or get along. But as soon as they figured out how to cross a mountain, they declared war on each other. I'm sorry, that's just human nature. Power, I guess. I don't know. But I had an attorney for 30 years. Actually, he represented me during the Iran-Contra affair. And when Trump got elected, he was telling me one day just how much he hates Trump. I said, okay, you're fired. Haven't spoken to him since. And this guy's been through hell with me. And it was my friend. I'm thinking, well, I can't have anybody around me that hates Trump, period. Because I know the man. I know how he treated me when I met him. So I told you before, I have declared war on the Democrats. They have nothing to say. There is no conversation. If they ask me how somebody walks up and says, how can you stand Donald Trump? I have nothing to say because they're stupid and you can't fix stupid. We know that. So I see Carl Schneider's listening. Hey, hi, Carl.
Yes. Yep. Carl popped in a few moments ago. We got Jay, Allison, Kevin.
I know Allison's there. Yeah, we had a great time at the muster Saturday, and we learned a lot. Of course, now I think they're really enjoying. We flipped our training to guerrilla warfare, and I think they're all enjoying it. So we're having a good time. You should come.
Well, I am thrilled to hear that. Thrilled to hear.
Now we didn't do any shooting on Saturday. People say, "Well, the Washington Guard didn't do any shooting training." No, out of respect for the deer hunters. We're in a rural area. In fact, No, we didn't shoot any weapons. We didn't blow up any tannerite, just out of respect for the deer hunters.
That, you know what? That is very nice of you because I know there'd be a lot of people upset out there in Franklin County if you guys were out there shooting and setting off some tannerite and
Yeah,
scared their prize
yeah.
away.
So that's why we didn't shoot. But we had a great time. They worked on sparring, and we talked a lot about. I gave them homework, and so they had to report on certain things as a presentation about the elements and fundamentals of guerrilla warfare. We had a great time. A lot of I'm sure there's a lot of people there that the things that were brought out in the conversations that they hadn't even thought about. And the reason we went to guerrilla warfare, because I'm telling you, we're going to civil war in this country. Not today,
It
not
seems
tomorrow.
more apparent every day.
So, and what's going to set it off is going to be a trigger event. Now, I don't know what that trigger event is. And I reminded the Guard on Saturday that a trigger event started World War One. One thing, an assassination, boom, and it started World War One. So,
I I hope that doesn't happen.
well, it's going to happen. So if the man at the house hasn't taken the effort to help his family and train his family and prepare for that and get the mindset, then they might as well go to a tattoo shop and get victim across their forehead, because this country is going to civil war in some way, shape, or form. It's not going to be from the cartel. The cartel's sitting and waiting. I really believe shortly we're going to go to war with Islam within these borders, which is fine with me. Let's get this party started, right?
Well, you see, I hate to even think about that. The Muslims I know, what they have told me when I've talked to them and had these conversations is that, they're fearful too, because if you're a Muslim and you're not, supporting some, I know that it's all intertwined, I understand, but if you're a Muslim and you're not ultra conservative, you're not the Muslim that's praying 5 times a day in the street, you're not wearing a hijab, or a burqa, these people are scared for their lives also. And you know what? They feel how they were raised. I have a good friend of mine who's an attorney who, of course, is Muslim. His entire family is. And he said for them, their religion is peace, security, prosperity for everyone. It's love. And what they're seeing with this radicalization of Islam, not only, of course, across the world, but here in the United States, they see it more than we do. They're in the mosque. They see the radicalization efforts. They see people approaching them, trying to radicalize them, and they are fearful. And when they're fearful, I swear to you, Colonel Ebbs, I just got chills over my whole body, because when they're fearful, then you know what? I'm quadruple fearful, because they know what's going on the inside, and they see it. It's very worrisome. It's very worrisome, and people have to be prepared.
They do.
How do you prepare? That's a whole other
A
story.
unique situation in the muster Saturday is everybody had a category they had to report on, and they were given literature to study and PowerPoints and all that. So one of the ladies, love her to death, excused herself from the classroom. So nobody thought much about it, and she disappears. And in the classroom, we had the door open going into the classroom, and all of a sudden this woman comes walking up the driveway in a burqa. And you should see the reaction of the guys. Of course, everybody's armed. So here, and she wouldn't identify herself. And she just kept walking up close. And I'm thinking, and I said to the audience, I said, be hopeful she doesn't have a suicide vest on. Of course, it was one of our girls, but the reaction to that was really, really strange. I mean, that was strange. There was actually some worry across some people's faces. Is this a real one? And how did she get in the compound? Then, of course, we all had a big laugh and everything. But her category to speak about was disguises. And she had the disguise with the burqa. Well, that got their attention. So
I bet it did. I bet it did. I've even seen some people online, and here, two parts of this is I've seen a couple people online who I think this is going too far. I don't know what you think. Talking about, hey, I'm going to buy, a burqa and some brown contact lenses as a disguise when things go down so I can mix in and make my escape. And I'm like, I don't think we have to go that far.
It was funny, but it was serious there for a few minutes. Carl will tell you. Now listen, yeah. But remember, the Islamists have killed more Americans since World War II than any other group. I mean, if you just read the indicators. Now, I wrote a security manifest in 1984, and there was, I think, the approximate population in it was 7 million Muslims here. Now we're at 42 Muslims, and they're radicalized. And that's just before social media was available to radicalize people. And if that's not an indicator, nothing is. I mean, Islam.
Yeah, you're right.
Islam is the cancer, societary-wise, of the world. They are. So, and I think we talked about. I don't know if we talked about it or not, but I asked the Washington Guard Saturday, what was America's first strike against Islam in the country's history? And then everybody stared at me. Then when I reminded them, it was Jefferson and Adams. And the reason I mentioned it was guy just had a birthday. Marine Corps 250th birthday. We're all Marines. That's our birthday. So I thought about that because I'm so anti-Islam so the reason Jefferson Adams went to Congress and formed the Marines was to go over to Tripoli and whack the Muslims, because we were spending half our treasury every year on ransoms to Islam because they're kidnapping our sailors. So Jefferson and Adams got together and said, I've had it, but we need a special forces group. We need to get our military over. How do you do that? Well, we're going to have a new seaworthy army, and we'll call it the Marines because they're on the water. And that's where when they put the leathernecks on their uniforms, because the Muslims carrying swords like to cut people's heads off. So that's where the Marines got their nickname, leathernecks, because of Islam. And my distant family member, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. Enough was enough. And they went after him. Nothing. And
look where we are now, Colonel Adams. Look where we are now. We have
Blackjack Pershing. During the uprising in the Philippines, our troops were sent there to fight the Muslims, Islam. So in those days, they got away with it. So as they could capture them, they'd line them all up in firing squad, kill them all. This is Blackjack Pershing. But they would leave one alive. And before they shot those men, I shouldn't even call them men, they showed them, and they dipped their bullets in pig blood. Now, if a person gets shot with a bullet dipped in pig blood, all their efforts to appease to Allah just went out the window. So the one they let loose goes back and tells everybody else, hey, these guys are shooting at us with pig blood on their bullets. It stopped the war. And there wasn't another Muslim uprising for 50 years. Thank you, Blackjack. Great idea. Go buy a pig, get ready.
Right. And now look where we stand. We had the leader of Al-Qaeda in the White House, a few days ago, meeting with Donald Trump. And, we have no choice because they have a seat at the table now. We have the Taliban. They have a seat at the table now. Pakistan, that is becoming more of a terror threat by the day, seats at the table. Iran, a seat at the table. These are people now we have to have diplomacy with. We had the al-Shura, who was in, again, meeting at the White House. His name used to be al-Jawlani. We had a $10 million bounty on his head because he murdered so many Americans, burned Americans alive in cages. But this guy's in the White House wearing a suit, meeting with Donald Trump, and it's not Donald Trump's fault. He has no choice. They have oil, they have rare earth minerals. We have to work out deals with them, and it's a crazy world we live in. One I'm not always happy about, but we just
This
it's hard
that's
sometimes.
called deception, and deception is in the Quran. It's okay to deceive for the objective.
Yes,
It's okay to shave your beard off. All those things. It's okay to lie. And Trump knows that.
it's called takia. I've been talking about that a lot lately.
So,
Actually, you are absolutely
and
correct.
then it was brought out that with Mundummy, the new mayor of New York. So Mundummy's wife, let's talk about deception, okay? When the IDF killed the Hamas leader who orchestrated the October 7th raid in Israel, right? She openly got online and mourned his death and say how upset she was. Just because she is not wearing a burqa, you can't vet somebody's heart. She's a cold-blooded Muslim, semi-communist without a burqa. Don't
Right.
let her appearance fool anybody. She's not an American red, white, and blue gal. No, first of all, she's his wife, and we know he's a communist and an infidel hater. So there's a prime example of deception. Just
Yes.
because she's not wearing a burqa, don't let them fool you.
Oh, there's, you know, now not on the show because I haven't had many shows lately due to my technical issues, but I've been talking about that a lot on social media. They call it I don't know sure if I'm pronouncing it right, takia, Taqiya. And what that is that somebody under the, in the Islamic faith can, like you said, lie, deceit, whatever they have to do. They can even downplay their religion or deny their religion at all if it furthers the ideology, if it furthers the spread of Islam. So that's why you can't look at Mamdani and his wife and trust what's happening with them. Everything I've researched, everything I've looked at reminds me so much of Obama and how Obama was groomed to become the leader that he was. And so much about his background was changed and hidden. The same thing's happening with Mamdani. You see it. It's impossible to deny.
Well, Islam is totally incompatible with Western values, and they're using the religion thing. And so until somebody steps forward and can convince the populace that Islam is not a religion, because they're using the Constitution against us, that would stop if we would quit identifying them as a religion. We could go into the mosque and stop that. Talk about hate crimes, preaching hate. That's in those mosques, they preach hate, right? But it's okay because it's a church and that's a religion. When did hate ever be a part of a religion? So
Right. And what worries me is the people I know who are Muslim who attend, services at a mosque. What they tell me is that it's the imam, the imam of a mosque, which is of course the leader of that mosque. There are still some imams who are loving and just want peace. They don't want to take over the world, but then there's the imams who do, want to take over the world and get rid of Christianity. They're taking over more mosques. And that's what we're seeing, in the New York cities, in the Dearborn, Michigans, in the Beaumont, Texas, all these different areas. And it's spreading. What is it in Dearborn, Michigan? There are 40,000, Islamicists in one area who voted something about banning Christianity. I mean, it's crazy to even think about.
well, the only way we're going to be able to defeat Islam is to officially recognize it as an ideology of violence. Now, Donald Trump knows that. But here's the problem. If Donald Trump comes out and says, excuse me, he's going to name them as a terrorist group. He could say the Islamic or radicalized Islam is not a religion, they're a terrorist group. Now, he doesn't dare say that, and you know why.
Oh, he's not going to say that. He would be dead today.
No, because because
He
the
is never
Democrats
going to
would
say
say
that.
just the opposite. What and they know that too. He
Yeah.
doesn't dare come out and say we're at war with Islam or we're going to be at war with Islam because the Democrats would just the opposite. So he needs to have the Democrats say, I think that they are not a religion. Oh, so what about this senator in Florida? Did you see about that? Jack, what's his name? Begins with an L. What is it?
Lane.
Oh yeah, Jack Lane. Hey, you guys look him up. Newly appointed senator. His first order or his first objective is to propose a bill to deport every Muslim in this country.
Oh, I did see that. I wasn't sure of the person's name, but
Oh,
I did see that. Now that will never go through.
yeah,
But
but
you know, and I
but
don't think in our lifetime we're going to see a ban on Sharia law or Islam. I don't expect that to happen unless something very drastic happens, like an assassination. I don't expect it to happen.
well, it's going to happen, and it's going to come through civil war.
Now it
That's how
could,
it's
yeah,
going to be.
absolutely.
When you oh, which reminds. Oh, anyway, I got to meet this guy. I wish he was my neighbor. So, uh, what's the deal with Tucker Carlson and Levin?
I don't have an issue with
What's
Tucker
that about?
Carlson personally. If you're talking about why all of a sudden all these people hate Tucker Carlson, it is
No,
because he interviewed that Jack Fuentes, and everybody thinks now he's being anti-Semitic. But if you look at Tucker Carlson, you watch his videos, he talks far more right now about alien disclosure and what's going on behind the scenes with the government than he even does politics these days.
no. What I'm talking about, he's after Levin. He's saying
Well,
Levin's
that's
promote
Well, Levin
genocide.
is after him. Levin is after him. Levin started this fight, and I love Mark Levin. For anyone that doesn't know, we're talking about Mark Levin. I can't remember what is this show called, Truth and Justice or something like that on Fox
Huh?
News, Fox National, and I've loved that guy.
Yeah,
But he
right.
came out and he was very upset with Tucker Carlson because Tucker Carlson interviewed Jack Fuentes, or is it what's his name, Fuentes, and Nick Fuentes, and he was very upset about that because he said they're anti-Semites. So
Yeah,
now
life.
they hate
Yeah,
Tucker Carlson.
yeah, we're big fans. Watch this on Saturday and Sunday night if I can stay awake.
Yeah,
It's Life, Liberty, and Levin. You should
that's
listen.
what it is.
What
That's what it is.
happened though?
Yes.
But so Tucker Carlson starts broadcasting and is challenging Levin to a debate because he says that Levin is promoting genocide on Islam. Genocide. I mean, kill all. I don't have a problem with that. Because then Tucker Carlson says, well, he's promoting to genocide, you have to kill the women and children first.
Yeah,
And
and
I'm
since I don't watch news, I haven't seen Levin's show in a long time. I've just seen
really,
excerpts, but I do really like him a lot and have
well,
liked him.
you have to compare Islam to cockroaches. Okay, so if you fumigate an area and you leave one cockroach alive, more cockroaches are going to come back again. And that's all I'm going to say. So if you can't read into that, then you're stupid.
Hey, I get it, and I know where you're coming from. I guess I'm just one of those people where I don't want to exterminate anyone. I want to fix the situation, but it might be a situation that's not fixable.
Everything just blew up here.
Yeah, I heard everything. You had
I
a
guess
little
somebody rang the doorbell.
action.
That's bad around here. The troops are taking care of it. So I don't understand Tucker Carlson though.
I love Tucker Carlson. I have no issue with him at all. I think he speaks the truth. Colonel Adams, the way I think about it is that when it comes to Israel and when it comes to, let's say, the situation in Gaza. Now, Israel, by the way, was striking Gaza this morning with airstrikes. That peace deal ended before it even really began. I don't like the government of any country, and that includes Israel. I'm not a fan of Netanyahu. I support the Israeli people, and I absolutely do believe that they have every right to exist, and I want them to be safe. And I do think Hamas, of course, are terrorists, and what they did on October 7th was incomprehensible. And Israel had every right to annihilate the members of Hamas.
Yeah.
But I am also not in favor of the way Israel has always treated, the Palestinian people. And I know some people don't even want to call them Palestinian people, the people of Gaza. Is that, and I know you know this, But anytime, it doesn't matter what group of people they are, I don't care who they are, anytime you take control over a group of people and you control their electricity, you control their water, you control their food, they're going to rise up. They're going to form a group, and then that group is going to be called a group of terrorists. And the way Israel has treated those people, I think, has been very wrong. And then you could argue and against that and say, well, those people try to kill the Israelis every opportunity they have, and you would be right too. It's a very difficult situation. But I'm not a fan of any government for any country. If you ask me, I would say I don't like any of them.
Hey, the Gaza Strip, instead of spending all that money building bunkers, they could have taken that money and developed their own energy sources. Did they? No. They relied on Israel because their philosophy is we're going to take them someday anyway. Why should we build it? We're just going to take it. And then back to Tucker Carlson and this thing he's got with Levin. I'd like to ask Tucker Carlson to his face, if you were sitting at home watching TV and a group of men entered your house, forced you to watch your daughter being raped, killed the toddler, threw him in the oven after you decapitated him, took your wife hostage after they raped her, left you for dead, and if somehow you lived, would you have the same impression about Hamas as you do now?
Well, I don't think Tucker, I mean, I could be wrong. I don't think Tucker Carlson supports Hamas or is defending Hamas. I mean, I've never seen him or heard him do that. But I think that he is against genocide of an entire group of people because of what Hamas did.
But then he's stupid because they're cockroaches. So.
I think, Colonel Adams,
I know Carl Snyder loved that one.
I'm sure he did.
People don't speak the truth. Now, I'm speaking as a former Marine. I'm speaking as a Marine. I've identified the enemy, and I've seen these things, and a lot of them I've done.
Sure.
I know how to defeat the enemy. They are our enemy, Islam. And it's going to happen here just like it happened on October the 7th. Something's going to happen.
And I recognize that too. That's part of my
people.
The same reason why.
Why do you think I started the Washington Guard?
Right.
How people get ready. It's inevitable. We're going to go to war in this country, period. And some of your listeners probably don't believe that.
I believe it.
When the last time I was wrong about anything? I don't know. I must have been a toddler. And I made my first citizen arrest in Franklin County. The guy comes out of I went to get gas to go to St. Louis. I always stop at the same gas station because it's right real close to my house, 2.2 miles. I always go to the same gas station. And I know Allison and Carl, you've already heard this story. So this was we could go Saturday. And I get to the gas station, I pull up, and it's one of them cold, windy days out here. It was cold that day. And when it comes to cold, I'm a sissy because I almost froze to death during the war in the Balkans. I haven't warmed up since. So I'm sitting in the car, filling the gas tank up. And out of my peripheral, which is way back here, I see a young man walk into his car and stumble and drop these 40-ounce cans of beers out of his arms, which didn't really mean anything. And then he got up and he's staggering bad. I think, the guy's probably intoxicated. Then as I'm looking at him, I look down. He don't have a front right tire on his car.
Oh my gosh!
There's a piece of rubber hanging off. So obviously he hit something. And I go, hey, buddy, hey, what? You don't have a front right tire. You can't go anywhere. Just staring at me. I think, this guy is drunk. I get out of the car, come around. I said, look, he's in the car by this time trying to start it. I said, no. No. Anyway, I get him out of the car. He's giving me some trouble. The guy behind him to get gas is giving me the thumbs up because he saw him too. I did not know this guy saw him falling down, going into the Quick Trip or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, here's the deal. I showed him my private investigator badge, and I said, "You're under arrest. Do you have anything on you that could hurt me if I pat you down?" "No." "Let me see your driver's license." "Why?" "Because I said so. You're not going anywhere." And this guy, I've already given him the signal. He's calling the cops. And he said, "Well, I don't have a driver's license." And this guy, and I said, "What's your name?" I couldn't even understand what his name was. So I've got him. The police show up. The first thing the police said was, "Oh, Adrian, we haven't seen you in a couple of weeks." So he's known to the police. He said, "I'm going to walk to work at this restaurant." I said, "You can't even walk 10 paces. So the guy behind him was there when he pulled in. This guy falls down going in to buy beer. And this guy's in there with him, totally intoxicated. You've heard the expression falling down drunk. This guy fell down going in to buy beer.
Terrible.
And lost a shoe. So I placed him under arrest, detained him until the police got there. If he'd have gotten that car and drove away, he's either going to kill himself or hurt innocent people. And I took it upon myself to arrest his ass.
Good for you. You probably saved some lives.
And the police said, "Oh, you're with the Washington Guard, right? Good job. Thank you very much."
Yeah, we don't need someone like that on the road. That is for sure.
Yeah. You got some stuff you want to finish up with?
No, you know what?
Whoa. Rich Little. Does everybody out there know who Rich Little is?
I do.
The greatest impressionist on Johnny Carson, actually, he told me he set in for Johnny more than any other guest. So Rich Little. So the other day I'm listening to Jamie Allman on News Talk, and Jamie's talking about AI, about this song out, real popular. And
yeah.
So I never really thought about it because I don't care. But now I care because Jamie was saying if AI is going to produce music, but who's behind the music? Where does the music come from? It doesn't come, and then it hit me because Jamie said when they're playing that AI music, who's on the other end? In other words, a machine created a song, right? What Jamie didn't say was, in fact, I've got to call into him, that AI music has no soul. Remember the old TV show Soul Train? Soul Train, right? How's this sound? AI train. No. These people that create this music and perform it, it comes from their heart, their soul, their experiences, their traumas, their friends' problems, country western, not AI. So I'm going to call Jamie and say, you almost had it. But so I'm calling Rich Little today because Jamie said, what about a person like Rich Little who actually impersonates somebody else, but we know it's Rich Little?
Yeah.
So I'm calling Rich Little and get Rich Little to go on Jamie's show and talk about how AI has no soul. So
I think you need to do it. Yeah, I did read the story about the AI song making it to like the top, of the Billboard charts, and nobody realized it was all AI. But that's where the the world is going. We're gonna have AI, commercials. A lot of people don't realize it, but some of the commercials you already see, on television or online, those are not real people. Those are AI generated people. They're not real. Think how much money these marketers are saving by putting AI generated people and not having to pay real actors, for those roles. And it's crazy the way of the world and where things are going. We all better be prepared, to save some money or have a backup plan when your job is taken over by AI.
But music means a lot to a lot of people for different reasons. The trouble they went through, love and lost, all that stuff.
A thing of the past.
And you're going to produce it from a machine? No, it has no soul. Hey, Tab, you go ahead and finish up. I'm going to figure out what all else is out here. And remember, if you join the Washington Guard, you're no longer alone. Carl, Allison, talk to you soon. Tab, thanks. I'll be back next Monday if I'm still alive. So thanks, people. Talk to you later.
Thank you, Colonel Adams with the Washington Guard. That's Colonel Joe Adams with the Washington Guard. Reach out to thewashingtonguard.com if you would like to contact folks over there and Colonel sign up. Come out to a muster. I'm sure they would be more than happy to have you. Came in, so you might see a little kitty popping up here shortly. Just in Colonel Adams' video. I don't really have anything more to say. I think we've covered it all. I've got to run. As you can see, I do not have my flag behind me. I had to use my camera setup for a different project, a couple days ago, and so I was doing some testing to see if my internet signal. Hopefully, we haven't been losing signal. On my end, things have been good. If I didn't press the wrong buttons, Kevin Jim Onder's commercials are AI. I know Jim Onder. I did not know his. I feel like naked flag behind me, just a big bare dirty wall, sitting behind me where I put my flags. But again, I started the show a little bit late today because I started the show. I was standing back here at Colonel Adams' waiting, and I couldn't see myself. I'm like, what in the world is happening? Why do I not see myself? And then I realized I never hooked up my camera. It was in the other room. So I had to run into the other room, get my camera. This camera is not easy to adjust. It's going to be one of those days. I worked at the film festival every single day, every single night this weekend. I am exhausted. I didn't get in until 3:30 in the morning last night. I'm so tired. I can barely keep my eyes open. I seriously thought I was going to get sick coming on to the show. And Carl says, it was good until the colonel left. Now you are getting a little breakup. Wouldn't you know, Carl? Wouldn't you know? But that's okay because I am done talking for the day either way. I don't have anything else to cover. We've covered it all with Colonel Joe Adams. We will join in back where we left off tomorrow morning. I hope you guys all have a good day today. If there's anything you need to do to get that winter prep going, man, today is the day because it's going to rain tonight. Supposed to rain the next couple of days. Going to be starting to get colder. Get out there and get it done. That's part of my plan today before I go to work. I have another busy week of work next week. A nice holiday week. I don't have any work, so that'll be a lot easier. But I do hope you guys have a good day, and I will look forward to seeing you all on Tuesday, tomorrow. Have a good day, everyone, and I will see you then. I'm Tabitha Hassell with Tabs on